Right, I think we're live. And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Prime Minister's response, which is going to be very interesting. Or Prime Minister's questions response. In truth, I'm a bit... Yeah, this week's been really juicy, hasn't it? Because let's face it, we've had all this hassle with the Brexit deal itself, and that's not gone very well, has it? And now we've gotten to a position where no confidence vote was triggered, and we will, of course, get to that. So for those who have seen it, please don't spoil it just yet. I want to savor it a little because it's just delicious, don't you think? I mean, all that's happened, and it's just absolute chaos, really, isn't it? And yes. Oh, I seem quiet, do I? Hang on. Let's turn the microphone up. Is this any better? Please let me know if it is. I don't want there to be too many problems. Let's move that chat there. Yeah, perfect result, to be honest, because it just makes things even worse. Much better. Fantastic. Right. The intention then is to go through PMQs as best we can, and then to address the vote of no confidence. And thank you, Dad. It was indeed my birthday yesterday. So let's switch here. Pop that chat so I can see it. Okay. Oh, hang on, I'll fix this as well, because that's not right. There we go. Much better. And pop that there. Okay, now I can see all the chats. I still dual stream to stream.me for anyone who does, but yeah, I don't have the same pull as other people. This is PMQs though, so we're not going to be going through the no confidence stuff just yet. If we're lucky, Trups might be here soon. He's welcome to join. I will nudge him if he wants to join anyway nearer the time. I have a lovely cake in the fridge. I tried to eat some last night, but it's a bit too rich for me, so I gave all the icing to my nephew, who he has this cute little thing he does, where he tries to feel it out to understand, to know whether or not he likes it. Now he loves chocolate, so he tasted it, give it a little lick, and was like, "Oh yes, 2-year-old nephew, it's all in his face." So yeah, right. Let us begin. Oh, and the only reason we're doing the first question, even though my favourite sandwich was made by Melody Dickens. I'll have to explain it in a bit. Although the Apocalypse was pretty good. It was like 7 different meats made by oh god, what's his name now? Ichabod Orange. Who's your daddy? Right. Starting with that early, are we? /.dash. You're very early. I actually have a question for you before I even start PMQs. Do you want me to answer that? And do you like torture your kids by putting them in front of the monitor first to say, to like just shove it in their face a little bit? It's a thought that occurred to me. Anyway, yes, PMQs. The reason we're doing the first question, even though it's an obvious plant, is because this is actually my MP, and Charlie Elphick, and I like him. Yeah, the delay was a bit... Yeah. Delay. Yeah. Yeah, so even though it's a plant, I still like him. He's a good guy. Although it's a plant question. So yeah.
Order. Questions to the Prime Minister. Charlie Elphick. Number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Charlie!
The Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am sure that the whole House will join me in condemning the appalling attack in Nairobi and in sending my thoughts and prayers to all those who have lost loved ones. Our High Commissioner has confirmed 1 British fatality, and we're providing consular assistance to British nationals affected by the attack. We stand in solidarity with the government and people of Kenya and will continue to offer our support to meet the challenge to security and stability that is posed.
Oh, the attack in Nairobi has been claimed to have been by a... Oh, let's take a wild guess, everyone. I want you to give me a 5-letter word to who you think, and where this can be traced back to, is to blame and who has claimed blame for it. Take a wild guess who committed this actual act of terror in Nairobi. Just guess. 5 letters. Satan, Amish, cunts. Oh, thank you, /.dash. You're all a bit wrong. Acts of terrorism. I wonder. Russia? No. Jesus. I can't tell if you're all intentionally trying not to say the dreaded 5-letter word. Definitely Russia. Yes, because Russia only has 1 S. Hindu. There's a new one. No, this was actually claimed by a Somalian terrorist group who... Allahu Akbar. Well, close enough. 5 letters, though. Islam. So, yeah. Another Islamic terrorist attack. I know. Imagine my fucking shock.
By terrorism in the region. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
I should have rescaled that video because it's far too big. I do apologise. Give me a second. Oh, no, this is actually okay. Yes, no, that's a good size, actually. I think. For some reason I didn't... I think I rescaled it last night when I was doing the no confidence, the Brexit deal vote. The no confidence one we'll get to. I have some videos for that, but I want to get through these first.
Charlie Elphick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join with the Prime Minister in her strong condemnation of terror. You will know, Mr. Speaker, and the Prime Minister will know that I first sought election to this House because I believed in more jobs, lower taxes, a stronger economy, more investment in the public services on which we all rely. And does she agree that since 2010, Conservative governments have delivered time and again for the British people? And the biggest threat to that is sat on the opposition front bench with a leader whose policies would mean less jobs, higher taxes, a weaker economy and less investment in our public services.
Right, so the reason he's put this question as a plant and had to be raised is because it's before the no confidence vote. Had Theresa May lost the vote of no confidence, we would be in a position of a general election, and then we have to weigh up the options. The Conservatives, who many would say, oh, it's your fault for austerity. No, it's Labour's fault, actually. Or Labour's policy of renationalising things, but to do that borrowing things, at the same time tearing down capitalism while unironically borrowing money from people, who themselves are capitalists. The guy on the left looks so bored and frustrated. Yes. Oh, and hello to everyone in the chat. I'm sorry I didn't notice. I don't know. I apologise.
My honourable friend is absolutely right. What have we seen under the Conservatives in government? We've seen 3.4 million more jobs. That's more people...
That only would be accurate if jobs also at the same time had not been lost. There are some factories, there are some businesses that went into administration that went out of business or moved abroad. So the 3.4 million more isn't entirely accurate, and it also does not account for inflation at the same time. Inflation of the population, that is. So actually it's far less than 3.4 million more jobs.
Earning an income, earning a wage, able to provide for their...
Cyrene, we are going to cover that at the end of PMQs. I will cover that as best I can.
Families. We've seen more children in good and outstanding schools, more money into our National Health Service. What would put that in danger? A government led by the right honourable gentleman, more borrowing, more taxes, more spending, fewer jobs.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Now, before he asks his questions, I want to put a point out there. He's going to ask some very specific questions. Theresa May won't answer all of them, as is tradition. Yeah, it includes 0-hour contracts, I think, which isn't something to brag about. And with the questions, he will claim she doesn't answer some, but they are quite clearly answered by her, which shows again, and it's a repeated problem, that he does not listen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, thank you. May I start by correcting the record? Last night I suggested this was the largest government defeat since the 1920s. I would not wish to be accused of misleading the House.
Because he's not done that before. Didn't you tell Jacob Rees-Mogg that he ran a hedge fund? Which is not true in the slightest, and is, I believe he called it, terminological inexactitude. That's what Jacob Rees-Mogg called it, and Jeremy Corbyn never corrected. In fact, he did mislead the House by misspeaking and not correcting. So I thought I'd put that out there.
Since been informed that is in fact the largest ever defeat for a government in the history of our democracy.
It was pretty embarrassing, but it wasn't surprising. However, all that has happened over the last 24 hours, at the end of it, he is going to look weak. He is going to look he's going to look his age. He's going to look, what, nearly 70 by the end of this? I'd be waited all day for this, you Squidbilly. Squidbillies are fucking amazing.
So, Mr. Speaker, shortly after the Prime Minister made her point of order last night, her spokesperson suggested the government had ruled out any form of customs union with the European Union as part of her reaching out exercise.
Probably because the EU themselves had also ruled that out. Because you cannot cherry-pick what parts of the EU you want to be a part of while not being a member.
Can the Prime Minister confirm that's the case?
Can I say to the right honourable gentleman that the exercise that I indicated last night is, as I said, about listening to the views of the House, about wanting to understand...
Leo, Google unknown Hinson.
...the views of parliamentarians, so that we can identify what could command the support of this House.
That's... okay, this is a bit of a misspeak. It's a regular one that she'll do over the course of PMQs. It's not command... any kind of majority in the House. Actually, no, that's exactly it. Something that will appease enough people to get it across the line. That's all she needs to do. All she needs is about 120 odd votes. And she's got it. Even if, when they vote it again, which they'll have to at this point, there's going to have to be another vote between now and March. If it happens... all she has to do is win by one vote. And she still wins. That's democracy. You can do a recount of MPs if you like, but once the doors are locked, that's it, game over.
And deliver on the referendum. And what the government wants to do is, first of all, to ensure that we deliver on the result of the referendum. That's leaving the European Union. And we want to do it in a way that ensures we respect the votes of those who voted to leave.
Which is a key point that many seem to overlook, and it happened all day yesterday and all day today in the no confidence crap. Ignoring the will of the people by moving the goalposts. That
referendum. That means ending free movement. It means getting a fairer deal for farmers and fishermen. It means opening up new opportunities to trade with the rest of the world. And it means keeping good ties with our neighbours in Europe.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Mr. Speaker, my question was about the customs union. Yeah. The Prime Minister seems to be in denial about that, just as much as she's in denial about the decision made by the House last night.
Sadly, Mandy, he's aged a lot. He's nowhere near as attractive as he once was to many people.
I understand the Business Secretary told business leaders on a conference call last night, we can't have no deal for all the reasons you've set out. Can the Prime Minister now reassure the House, businesses and the country and confirm that is indeed the government's position, that we can't have no deal?
This desperate attempt to rule out no deal. It's kind of sad.
I think that the point that the Business Secretary is making, and that he has made previously, is that if you don't want to have no deal, you have to ensure that you have a deal. Now,
Yeah, so he wasn't himself ruling it out entirely. He was just that he's one that supports the deal. Therefore, he hasn't ruled it out. He just doesn't consider it an option.
I will give this to... I will say this to the Right Honourable Gentleman. There are actually two ways of avoiding no deal.
Yeah, one of these should not happen, and the other one is unlikely. If one of them happens, the latter, yeah, no. You're all fucked.
The first is to agree a deal, and the second would be to revoke Article 50.
Oh, the here's. You know where that came from, don't you? That comes from the benches of the SNP, who act in the interests of Scotland and claim their voices aren't being listened to in the United Kingdom Parliament. Hey, your voices are listened to in your Parliament. And your voices are listened to in this one as well, and summarily rejected because they don't command the majority of the votes.
Now that would mean staying in the European Union, failing to respect the result of the referendum, and that is something that this government will not do.
Jeremy Corbyn!
The Prime Minister hasn't answered on a customs union, hasn't answered on no deal.
Actually, she did answer, and she gave clarity to what he said. You did not listen to it, because you're now shifting the goalpost to imply that your actual question was, should we remove no deal? Or will you remove no deal? No, shut the fuck up.
And continue to...
Hey Trups, if when I'm done with this, you'd like to join and talk about no deal, about the vote of no confidence, just let me know.
To spend $4.2 billion of public money on a no-deal scenario. Can't you understand? Yesterday the House rejected her deal. She needs to come up with something different than that. But, Mr. Speaker, it's not just on Brexit that this government...
Hey, think about this, right? So before he continues, and I'm sorry for interrupting him, for those that complain on a regular basis that I interrupt on a regular basis, that's fine, Traps. It's all good. You've got to think here that he was under the pretense that she has to come up with something better. But he was the one that yesterday tabled the motion of no confidence. You would have thought he would have said, maybe you don't need to come up with something better because I'm going to win a vote. I'm going to do what I can to get the votes needed in this House. Clearly, and we'll get to it later, his personality really doesn't help him. Let's continue.
Government is failing. 4 million working people are living in poverty. 500,000 more children in poverty compared to 2010. The Roundtree Foundation confirms in-work poverty is rising faster than the overall employment rate. With poverty rising, can the Prime Minister tell us when we can expect it to fall for the time she remains in office?
Spark? Cool.
Can I tell the Right Honourable Gentleman what is happening? We now see 1 million fewer people in...
Slashdot wants to smash Diane Abbott's huge black bottom.
Thank you, Saki, for the £5 donation.
absolute poverty.
Okay, right. The poverty argument. We've heard this so many times. Hello, Daniel Taylor. The argument keeps cropping up. The argument is always absolute and relative poverty. The thing is, absolute poverty should be what we actually focus on, really. Relative is subjective and subject to regular change, because the goalposts shift. I saw this argument in the no confidence debates, where somebody mentioned that in any civilized society we wouldn't have people queuing up to go to food banks, and I was like, what kind of civilization are you envisioning here? Are you so deluded? Okay, you're thinking that that to be civilized, one must live within a utopia. You'd be hard-pressed to find a time within a civilized world where a food bank of some kind has not existed, or some form of charity where food is given freely has not existed. So the argument is moot. I don't know. It's such a stupid argument. Oh, that's a horrible face, isn't it? It's such a silly argument, and it's always about absolute and relative poverty, and they're never going to agree on this, because absolute poverty is that base, a proper, I believe, an assessed baseline. Relative is always one that changes.
That is a record low. We see 300,000 fewer children in absolute poverty. That is a record low. We see a record low in the number of children living in workerless households.
That is actually a really good talking point, because for me, if you have, even if your family are struggling, and work hard but are struggling, that's not something to complain about. Because as far as I'm concerned... Oh god, the pause face. As far as I'm concerned... And I grew up in one of these households, by the way. My mother worked 4 jobs, struggled to pay the bills. She did it. Oh. Thank you, Emma Tring Moon. It's very kind of you as a late birthday present. I very much appreciate it. It's such a silly thing to attack. Because people struggle. They get on with it. And the best thing, really, from my perspective, is... people like myself learnt to value money and value what I had and look after what I had. Because, hello Director Ground, you have to make it... You just have to understand that you can't just expect to have money thrown at it and that's it, problem solved, which is actually a huge problem under Labour. You're not solving the problem, you're just throwing money at it until something sticks. That is why these policies never work, and it always causes economic crashes. It is an absolute embarrassment. A damning legacy of quite a number of Labour's policies in the past. You spent because you didn't address the problem. You just thought the problem was solved by throwing money at it, which is embarrassing. And people working in and struggling regardless, I tend to think make better children anyway, because they don't grow up to be brats.
An income inequality lower than at any point under the last Labour government. That's Conservatives delivering for the people of this country. What would we see from the Labour Party? £1,000 billion more in borrowing and taxes.
It's actually 1,500 to be exact, because you've got to think he'd buy back the water, the gas, and the rails. I think the buses as well. And that doesn't include the money needed then to invest, quotes, invest in them. I see the... Hang on, I didn't see that. My apologies. Let me see that message. I see the food banks up here where the oil was. People had to sell their houses off the downturn in the oil. Question is, why do we need food banks when we're meant to be a rich country? Yeah. We're not rich. We have a very big economy, one of the biggest in the world, but we're not rich. We have so much debt, it's ridiculous. Who here is on the dole? I'm not anymore, but I spent, let's see, of my adult life of 16, now 17 years, I spent half of it on job seekers. The longest stretch was 4 years, which was actually just before I started on YouTube. So it's not ideal. In fact, it is quite painful. I have to admit, the job centre in Dover is the single most depressing building in the world. I'm so glad the one in Deal became a Wetherspoons. Oh crap, wrong video. That's on the no confidence vote I clicked on. Carry on.
Equivalent of £35,000 for every household in this country. That's Labour failing to deliver for working people, because working people always pay the price of the Labour Party.
Evidence of that is that austerity had to be introduced, and those that got hurt the most were the poor. Although I would argue there are pros and cons to the universal credit thing, so I'm not going to get involved in that. But it was understandable that benefits had to be capped. The real major issue there was that a lot of families had to be moved from cities because they couldn't afford to live there anymore because of the benefits cap. Oh look, the communist.
In denial on a customs union, in denial on no deal, in denial on the amount of money being spent preparing for no deal.
This is silly. It's not because of being in denial, It's a case of you have to be ready in case you get it wrong or you lose. This is why you guys absolutely fucked it when Brexit happened. When Leave won, you guys weren't ready for it.
In denial on last night's result, and even the UN rapporteur on poverty says that
oh, this twerp.
The government is... Well,
the guy's name's Alston. He said that... Yeah, no, fuck it. It's good.
Mr. Speaker, it's very telling indeed, that as soon as I mention the report of the UN rapporteur who said the government was in a state of denial about poverty in Britain, Tory MPs start jeering.
It's a shame, by the way, people in the chat who mentioned London, that London, the mayor himself, he had money allocated to build more affordable housing, but he didn't spend it on affordable housing, which is a damning statement for him, and for his predecessor for that matter.
Tell that to people queuing up at food banks.
It's not a point. Yes, okay, it's not great, but it's not a point. And I'd like to point out, with your policies, people will be queuing up for food banks, bread banks, soup banks, cyanide booths.
The government too, Mr. Speaker, has failed on children's education. Can the Prime Minister tell us what is her greatest failure? Is it that education funding has been cut by £7 billion? Per pupil funding fallen by 8%, sixth form funding cut by a fifth, or that the adult skills budget has been slashed by 45%.
Right, so this actually had me wondering, because yes, the budgets have gone down, and in truth that is quite damning. However, this is based on an assumption that they needed the money. And I know, yes, some schools, and there are some, that have struggled to raise funds for books, but then they include field trips. I'm like, that's not a compulsory part of the education. And I think the idea of just giving the schools more money doesn't necessarily, again, mean the school is going, yeah, it's the syllabus. You spelled syllabus wrong, by the way, Echo. For shame. Hello, Maltloaf. Nice. It, to me, bugs me to no end that it's this whole part of, you know... oh, wow, that's unfortunate, Princess Crazy Locks. I'm really sorry about that. I think it's one of those really odd things where you don't solve your problem by spending your way out. You look at what the students are being taught. And the thing is, more students are getting A's. More students are getting A's in A levels and doing well at university. The quality of the education is not the problem at all. Therefore, do they need more money? No, they don't. So having budgets cut because it's not needed is one of those I'm okay with things. It's when the schools then can't afford to maintain all the staff they have because of more students going there, yes. Then of course you need to then make sure you have enough money to pay the teachers, enough money to buy the equipment. I tend to agree with that. My old senior school got £2 million to be upgraded. Hang on a second, I missed that. £2 million to be upgraded, and now it's just being demolished. That £2 million upgrade was for nothing. What's the fucking point? I found during my job search there's so many going to uni now that some jobs only need a degree. Now I want masters. Hey, I might be in there. That's not surprising though. When a market becomes oversaturated, what happens? It's less desirable, it's not considered elite anymore. They really need to make it so that, yes, everyone has the right to go, but they are good enough to go. Foundation years have kind of you know, made it very, very simple for people who have failed at A levels to work their way in. Now, who is your daddy? Well, I think my dad was in the chat earlier, fam. Just saying. Thank you, /.dash, for the £9.99 donation. That's very kind of you. Let's continue. Where's the video? There it is.
Which is it, Prime Minister?
hundreds of free schools, a reformed curriculum, 1.9 million more children in good or outstanding schools, narrowing the attainment gap for disadvantaged children. This is a government that is delivering the education that our children need for their future. But I say to the right honourable gentleman, he talks about being in denial. The only person in denial in this chamber is him, because he has consistently failed to set out what his policy on Brexit is.
It is quite important that if we had been going into a general election, that we actually know what you're going to do. And I know it's a bit hypocritical since I've on many occasions said that the Prime Minister didn't have to show her hand during the negotiations. And, you know, it is hypocritical, but in this circumstance, so close to D-Day, there has to be I think we have to make concessions and someone has to show what they would do. You don't have to be brainy enough for a Masters, you just have to be committed. Hard work and dedication, it always pays off. I would be disappointed if the stream was not a thing. Thank you, Carlos. Well, I'm going to finish when I finish PMQs, I'm going to cover the no confidence thing because that's going to be fun.
I said to him last week that he might do with a lip reader. I think when it comes to his Brexit policy, the rest of us need a mind reader.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Cheap joke.
Speaker, the Prime Minister is very well aware that we want there to be a customs union with the EU.
But you only get that by staying in the EU, you bellend. They've already said you cannot cherry pick, and what are you trying to do? You are trying to cherry pick. Thing is, half your party... Yeah, I think it will be extended, but I don't know about a second referendum. You have to be a bit of a bellend, really, to be this deluded. And also, half your party want a second referendum, others just want to revoke it. You don't want to leave yourself. Dear oh dear.
Seems to be in denial about that. But one of the problems she has on her denial is the flagrant disregard for facts and statistics.
Amateur Moon, you are on my level, and I did the exact same Masters.
And the Statistics Authority has written to the Department of Education 4 times to...
I will be addressing the Gove video, which I actually have up on my screen.
Express their concern about the use of dodgy figures by her ministers. When police officers told the then Home Secretary not to make more cuts to police, that Home Secretary accused them of crying wolf. With 21,000 fewer police officers and rising crime across the country, does the Prime Minister accept that the then Home Secretary got it wrong?
She did get it wrong, yes.
The right honourable gentleman. Of course, as we look at what is happening, particularly at what is happening on knife crime and serious violence, we recognise the need to take action. That's why we've introduced the Offensive Weapons Bill, and it's why my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, has introduced the Serious Violence Strategy. We are also making nearly £1 billion more available to police forces over the next year. But I also say to the right honourable gentleman, yet again in all of these questions about public services, he only ever talks about the money that's going in.
Because he thinks that solves the problem. With the police, we need more police, so yes, there is an argument to be made. Education, not necessarily true. Yes, there are some schools being left behind, and they do need to be helped. But it doesn't mean you need to throw billions at it.
What matters with the police is the powers that we give them as well. And what was it when we came to the issue of knife crime, when we came to the issue of taking more action at criminals who were involved in knife crime, when we said that if somebody was caught on the streets for a second time for a knife crime, they should be sent to prison, what did the right honourable gentleman do? He voted against. He doesn't support our police.
Yeah, when I found out about that initially, I did tweet to Jeremy Corbyn asking him. I even emailed Jeremy Corbyn and I got no response. No response why he voted against the spending. Which to me looks like, and it's an optics thing, it's a case of playing party politics just voting against the other team because they're the enemy. The UK can suck my dirty nutsack. Have a shower, dude.
He doesn't support our security.
Hello, Lucy.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Increased the number of police on our streets. It was a Labour government that brought in safer neighbourhoods. It was a Labour...
Yeah, but you just threw money at it and there was no real accountability. Hello.
government that properly funded the police force. It's the Tories that have cut it. Ask anyone on any street around this country, do they feel safer now than they did 8 years ago? I think we all know what the answer would be. It was that Home Secretary that not only attacked the police with that, but also created the hostile environment and the Windrush scandal.
Hostile environment towards illegal immigrants. Yes, some that were registered and here legally were caught up in that. And that was unfortunate. But it happens everywhere. That will always happen. Who was in charge 40 years ago? Probably a Labour government, to be honest. You can trace a lot of it back. In fact, some of the grooming gangs did start during the last Labour government. Some happened during the Conservative government, in fact. Back in the 90s. It is horrific. And, quite frankly, people should be held accountable. Can we talk about Islam in Parliament now? Or is it a case that the only people that can are Muslims, because they're the only real authorities? Windrush was a reference to Caribbean folk who were brought here to work and live here due to the wars and the loss of people. They integrated within this country, they brought culture with them, they're fantastic. But a number of them were not registered even though they were entitled to be, because their paperwork was lost. So they didn't have to register the conventional way because of when they came here. And so there was a scandal, and it wasn't helped when the Home Secretary at the time, Amber Rudd, lied to Parliament. The lying cunt. Who's now in charge of the Department of Work and Pensions. How the fuck did I lie? Is her last name Guerrero?
She promised to tackle burning injustices. She's made them worse, as Windrush showed. More homelessness, more children in poverty, more...
She didn't make them worse. No, hostile environment didn't make it worse for them. What made it worse was the loss of paperwork during a relocation. That was an accident. Don't try and play that up as some kind of actual, like intentional thing to get rid of people. No. These people are here legally, and they have a right to be here. Therefore, the hostile environment was not for them. It was for those who came here on boats or hid in trucks and had no place in this country, but were taking jobs from those that needed the work and were trying to bleed our system and also mooch off it by not paying back into it. And before some twat inevitably tells me, oh yes, but the illegal immigrant pays taxes. You fucking what, mate? Don't give me that bullshit.
More older people without care, longer waits at A&E, fewer nurses, rising crime, less safe streets, cuts to children's education. This government has failed our country. It cannot govern, cannot command the support of most people facing the most important issue at the moment, which is Brexit. They failed again and lost the vote last night. Isn't it the case, Mr. Speaker, that with every other previous Prime Minister faced with the scale of defeat last night, they would have resigned and the country would be able to choose the government that they want?
What a waste of a question. I mean, I get you have 6 questions and really you only put any effort into 3 of them, but that was a waste. You could have attacked a policy. Yes, you can, Saint of Bacon, but mostly because there's bacon in your name.
The Right Honourable Gentleman, in that peroration, talked about the importance of the issue of Brexit that is facing this country. Later today, we're going to have the no confidence debate. He has been calling for weeks for a general election in this country, and yet on Sunday, when he was asked, in a general election, would he campaign to leave the European Union, he refused to answer.
He was asked quite a lot, actually, quite a few times. It's quite embarrassing.
Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 5 times he refused to answer.
Do you know why? Because it wasn't in his script.
So on what he himself describes as the key issue facing this country, he has no answer. The leader of the opposition has let anti-Semitism run riot in his party.
Let's move Israel to America, everyone.
He would abandon our allies, weaken our security and wreck our economy, and we will never let that happen.
The one real shot, well, okay, he has one more left really. The one shot he had to unseat the Conservatives was the vote of no confidence. The next time, because he can't do it anytime soon now, would be 2022. If he's still alive then.
The Prime Minister will be aware of the Sirius Minerals project in my constituency that is already employing around 1,000 people and is set to boost British exports by £2 billion. From her visits to China, where she met the company's customers, she will know how important this polyhalite fertiliser product can be around the world. The company is currently seeking a Treasury guarantee to complete its financing. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that this is precisely the sort of project the government should be supporting to show our commitment to the Northern Powerhouse and the industrial strategy?
Well, can I say to my right honourable friend, I'd like to thank him for raising this issue because I was particularly pleased to meet the CEO of Sirius during my trip to China and talk to them about the work that they're doing. And it is, as he says, exactly projects like this that drive investment and exports in the north that are what the Northern Powerhouse is all about. Now, in relation to the particular discussions my right honourable friend mentioned, I'm sure he'll understand these are commercially sensitive, so it would be inappropriate for me to comment on the specific discussions, but this, as I say, is exactly the sort of project that is what the Northern Powerhouse is all about, in driving investment, driving exports, good for the north.
Alright, time for the paper fiddler, everyone. Everyone hide your paper, hide the reams, because this is about to get really sexual.
Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with the remarks of the Prime Minister and the atrocity in Kent?
And to the chat, I don't know what the rules are on parliamentary votes of no confidence, but if it's anything like the party vote, it will have to be at least a year.
Yeah, and of course our solidarity with
Touch that paper, baby.
people there.
Touch it.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday
He's not
the
touching
Attorney
it.
General said
Oh,
that
there we
any
go.
new deal would be much the same as the one already on the table. We know that the European Union won't renegotiate. If the Prime Minister survives today to bring forward her Plan B, will she concede that Plan B will basically be a redressing of Plan A? Yeah.
I do actually want to know what Plan B will be, because she has to come up with a new plan now. I think what she'll do is find a way to butter up enough people so she'll have secret meetings with people that she believes she can sway. There are a number of people in the Labour Party who want to leave. Those people she needs to talk to. Of course, she now needs to find a way to appease those who are within her own party that voted against her. She needs to know who they are first, of course. Which won't take long. And I think... Plan B, a pill for abortion. I did not know this because I be man. She won't get votes from the SNP. She won't get votes from a lot of hard left Labour MPs. And he's a funny, pudgy bastard, isn't he, Debula?
As I said in one of my answers to the Leader of the Opposition, what we want to do following the defeat that we had in this House last night...
Oh, and yes, with the no confidence vote, there is another person who could table a motion, actually. it's possible, I believe, that the leader of the SNP could in fact table another vote of no confidence, but he would have to then find a way to get the votes, and I don't mind who downvotes the stream. It's fine.
Is listen to parliamentarians and find out the point at which what is it that would secure the support of this House. That is the question that we will be asking, but that is against the background of ensuring that we deliver on the referendum result, that we leave the European Union and we recognise what people were voting for when they voted in that referendum result, an end to free movement, ensuring that we could have trade, have our own trade policy with the rest of the world, be fairer to our farmers, fairer to our fishermen, but maintain that good relationship with our neighbours in the EU.
Oh, and please smash the like button, because I'd like those 3 downvotes to disappear a little. Thank you.
Ian Blackford.
I'm afraid, Mr. Speaker, that simply didn't address the question. The EU won't renegotiate. The Prime Minister has no answer. She has failed. What an omni-shambles from this government, suffering a historic and a humiliating defeat. The worst for any UK government. Westminster is in chaos. But in Scotland, we stand united.
Yes, you stand united in Remain, but you simultaneously, and I guess this is somewhat unironic, ignore the vote of those that voted to leave, because there was a percentage of those that did vote to leave. Thank you for smashing the like button. I very much appreciate it.
Mr. Speaker, Scotland voted overwhelmingly to remain, and we will
But not all of you.
not allow our country to be dragged out of the European Union or brought down by this Tory government.
How are you going to stop it? It's not Scotland. It doesn't stand alone here. You're not an individual nation. You're part of the United Kingdom, you barnstorming fucking knuckle.
Minister knew that this deal was dead since Chequers. She knew it was dead when she moved the meaningful vote, and she knows, as we all know, last night was the last straw. The Prime Minister must now seek the confidence of the people, not simply the confidence of this House.
Oh dear, you know where this is going, don't you, everyone?
The only way forward is to extend Article 50 and ask the people of Scotland and of the United Kingdom whether they want the Prime Minister's deal or whether they want to remain in the European Union.
See, that's not much of an option, is it? Can you imagine that on the ballot? Take Theresa May's bad deal or stay in the EU? It's like, it's a case of, do I take the cyanide skittle or the arsenic? Which one, everyone? I'll let you all vote in the chat. Do you want cyanide or arsenic?
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister now must legislate for a people's vote.
No, the Prime Minister must not. No one should be speaking out of turn by demanding what the Prime Minister should and should not do. There should not be another vote. To have another vote would be an insult to the 17.4 million people that voted leave. Yes, very few of them were Scottish, but there were Scottish people that voted leave. You are doing the very thing you think this government is doing to Scotland. You are ignoring the will of your people, of those that voted to leave, because it doesn't suit your politics. But you are claiming Scotland is being ignored because politics.
I'll say to the right honourable gentleman, as he knows, as I have said before, this House legislated for a people's vote. It legislated for a people's vote that was held in 2016, and that vote determined that the United Kingdom should leave the European Union. He talks about our country. Our country is the whole of the United Kingdom. England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, and it is for the whole of the United Kingdom that we will be looking for a solution that secures the support of this House and ensures that this Parliament delivers on the vote of the people.
Well, this has all been rather interesting, don't you agree? It's been absolute hell, really. I have to admit, I've quite enjoyed that. Let me just pull up the right sources first. Is it this one? Ah, it's this one, yes. Right, so that's not the right part. We'll do this first. Is that the vote itself? That. Okay, well, let's address this first. This is a video by Tom Watson. It's 51 seconds long, BBC Politics. Let's full screen it. This is a statement he makes on Brexit, and I want to play it because I think in 2020 no lives matter, everyone. That's right, everyone. Oh, why is that still there? Hang on a second. Let's get rid of that because that's just silly. And we'll extend that because it should be there. There we go. Right.
She is a Prime Minister without a majority for her flagship policy, with no authority and no plan B. 432 to 202. Mr. Speaker, that is not a mere flesh wound. No one doubts her determination, which is generally an admirable quality, but misapplied it can be toxic. And the cruelest truth of all is that she doesn't possess the necessary skills, the political skills, the empathy, the ability, and most crucially, the policy to lead this country any longer.
But as you don't have a policy at all, what leg do you have to stand on? Since you actually know you have one policy. Throw money at it with glue and see what sticks. Oh, that was it. Yeah, that was one. Okay, so we'll go back here a second. Turn that off. I will link this, by the way. Yes, the vote of confidence has happened, and I'm building up to it. This now will be a video by Michael Gove. Let's open that up. We're going to cover some of it, not all. Let's turn that up. James, don't spoil it. And you, Davey. Damn you both.
Mr. Speaker, as you know, having sat...
By the way, this man is an absolute snake. No one likes him because he's a massive fucking snake. He is the reason Boris Johnson isn't Prime Minister and Theresa May became Prime Minister.
Throughout this entire debate, it has been a passionate debate characterised by many excellent speeches. I commend the members for Tiverton and Honiton, Bolton West, East Surrey, Mid Norfolk, Plymouth Moorview...
East Surrey. Damn. That's like where I grew up.
Broxtowe, Stirling, Dudley South, Faversham and Stoke-on-Trent South on my side for a series of outstanding speeches. Yeah. But it has also been the case, as the Shadow Secretary of State pointed out, that there have been many powerful speeches from the opposition benches as well. And I too, like him, want to pay particular tribute to the members for Warrington North, Gedling, Ilford.
Yeah, there's an East Surrey. It has one of the worst hospitals in the country, Graham. East Surrey Hospital is one of the worst ones in the country. I need to go somewhere. It makes a point. Here.
To the speech from the Shadow Secretary of State. He spoke well. He spoke well, but I felt he did not rise to the level of events. But one thing that was characteristic about his speech, he did not once mention in his speech the leader of the opposition or why he should be Prime Minister.
Yeah, I think that was kind of a lacking moment. Oh, and I will, when this is done, once the full debate is available, which it will be on the UK Parliament channel, I will link it below because it is very important. And Gove is a fucking snake.
Now, he doesn't want him to be Prime Minister. Yes. I have a lot of time.
Oh, James Paget. Damn, I used to live in Lowestoft. I went to Great James Paget once when my stepdad had a stroke. And I was born in West Sussex, Graham. So I have nothing to be sorry about, or guilty about, or feel ashamed of. I was born in Crawley.
For the honourable member, we have several things in common. He's lost weight recently. Sorry, we both lost weight recently, I should say. Him much more so. We're both friends of Israel. Him much more so. And we both recognise that the member for Islington North is about the worst possible person to lead the Labour Party. Him much more so.
Oh, the burn.
Now, as well as great speeches from the backbenches, we also had some interesting speeches from the front benches. We had a speech of over
Hello, Prospero.
20 minutes from my great friend, the leader of the Scottish National Party in this place. But again, in those 20 minutes, he did not once mention the common fisheries policy.
Which is a huge deal for Scottish fishermen. Scottish fishermen support Brexit. The Scottish Federation of Fishermen actually support Brexit. I would be ashamed about being from Crawley, by the way, but no, everything in this country is literally Haiti anyway. And look at this fat tosser. Because he likes to blow people dibular.
I think everyone in Scotland who recognises the potential to free ourselves from the common fisheries policy which Brexit provides will note that in 20 minutes of precious parliamentary time, the SNP didn't mention them, aren't interested in them, and as far as the fishing people of Scotland are concerned, the SNP have literally nothing to say.
These burns, by the way. So, I will link this video, by the way, for those who are interested, afterwards. But I'm now going to play this video, which is very important. So, I know it's been spoiled by a few people already, but let's Devon can fuck right off. This is important, so we'll watch this.
The ayes to the right, 306. The noes to the left, 325.
Oh, poor Corbyn. Did you see that? Let's go back. Let's go back. This is the vote of no confidence, by the way. Let's do it again.
The ayes to the right, 306.
Watch Corbyn's face, everyone.
The noes to the left, 325.
Ooh. 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 I know you're supposed to say oof here, but I don't.
The ayes to the right, 306. The noes to the left, 325. So the noes have it. The noes have it. Unlock.
Yeah, which is why, to someone who said barely more than the coalition majority, it's why I believe that even the Brexiteers in our own party wanted the government to stay in power, because the options were this government or Labour. And the current Labour, that is, not Labour as a whole. So let's...
Order, the Prime Minister.
Let's hear what she has to say on this, because she is now... This is amazing, right? She is being caught in contempt. She has lost she's won a vote of no confidence within her own party by 118, but it was still quite bad at the time. She lost the vote on the deal and has now just won the vote of no confidence in Parliament. This woman she's like made of Gorilla Glass. You just can't scratch that.
On a point of order, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that this House has expressed its confidence in the government tonight. I do not take this responsibility lightly, and my government will continue its work to increase our prosperity, guarantee our security, and to strengthen our union. And yes, we will also continue to work to deliver on the solemn promise we made to the people of this country to
And Serene, yes, you're quite right, they don't want to lose power, but they don't want to lose power... Teflon, yeah. They don't want to lose power to Labour, because Labour's policies would undo everything Conservatives think they're trying to do.
Deliver on the result of the referendum and leave the European Union.
Hang on.
I believe this...
Did I get something wrong? Give me a second. I will correct myself if true. Where is it? The Scottish Inshore Fishing Association do not. Yes, but the Scottish Federation do. And I know this because I read their statement. So let's go back to this. There we go.
Duty is shared by every member of this House, and we have a responsibility to identify a way forward that can secure the backing of the House.
Or a majority to get through.
To that end, I've proposed a series of meetings between senior parliamentarians and representatives of the government over the coming days, and I would like to invite the leaders of parliamentary parties to meet with me individually, and I would like to start these meetings tonight. Mr. Speaker, the government approaches these meetings in a constructive spirit, and I urge others to do the same. But we must find solutions that are negotiable and command sufficient support in this House. And as I've said...
I don't know who can deliver Brexit, and I don't know if we can achieve a no deal now. Because the only way they're going to get it through is if no deal's taken off the table. The only way they get the deal through is if they take it off the table, and that appeases maybe some members within each of the parties. Some will call for a second vote. I would love to be a fly on the wall in these meetings, because I can imagine Corbyn sitting there in his chair with his arms crossed, pouting and turning away from her, saying, "I can't see you, therefore you're not there." And then I can already see Ian Blackford in a chair, but his feet aren't touching the floor, rubbing his belly, making a wish to a genie.
Said we will return to the House on Monday to table an amendable motion and to make a statement about the way forward. The House has put its confidence in this government. I stand ready to work with any member of this House to deliver on Brexit and ensure that this House retains the confidence of the British people.
Right. Let's address Jeremy Corbyn's speech. This is going to be the final thing we cover before we finish. Jeremy Corbyn's statement on what has just happened.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last night the House rejected the government's conclusion of its negotiations with the European...
Order. I called the Prime Minister on a point of order, and the Prime Minister was heard, and she was heard in relative tranquility and certainly with courtesy. And the same courtesy will be extended to the Leader of the Opposition and to others who seek to raise points of order. That's the way it is. Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last night the House rejected the government's deal, emphatically. A week ago...
That is a tatty suit. Just looking at it, it looks so tatty. The edges on that collar, that's ridiculous.
The House voted to condemn the idea of a no-deal Brexit. Before there can be any positive discussions about the way forward...
Exactly, Serene, they don't.
The government must remove clearly, once and for all, the prospect of the catastrophe of a no-deal Brexit from the EU and all the chaos that would come as a result of that.
Does that mean then you would then vote in favour of the deal? No, because now that if you see them do that, Primark suit, if it was, one arm would be longer than the other.
And I invite the Prime Minister to confirm now that the government will not countenance a no-deal Brexit from the European Union.
So, he doesn't really say much, doesn't give away much. Theresa May survives a vote of no confidence again. She has survived 2 of them, one with her own party and one in Parliament. How amazing is this? She's weak. There's no denying that. But Jeremy Corbyn just lost. Yes, the Omegon Fashion Advice channel. It's just, do we have Applebee's in the UK? I've never heard of Applebee's in this country. Last time I bought a suit, it was tailored, so yeah. Anyway, this has been quite amazing, and as I have a few things I need to do tonight before I get some much needed sleep, I think I'm going to end this here. I am very surprised Theresa May has won. I actually thought that they would lose and that she would be out. I thought that might happen. It didn't happen. That certainly would have made political recap with Trups tomorrow very interesting. Ghost Poo is on soon, yes. So by all means go to Drunken Uncle's channel. Unless it's the Drunken Pineapple. I don't know if he's got a strike at the moment. Where was this resilience and tenacity dealing with the EU? It was very deep up someone's sphincter. They just couldn't get the dick far enough to touch it. So yes, thank you all very much for listening. Thank you to those who donated and thumbed the stream up. I very much appreciated that. And have yourselves a lovely, lovely evening.